Mario Götze, Thaddeus Young, and Alejandro Bedoya, 3 active athletes who are building in venture capital, and I'm going to evaluate their sort of fund structure, what they're invested in, and sort of like give my remarks along the way. If it works, if you do it right, you cash out at an infinite amount that you put in. And a lot of athletes are starting to really dabble seriously in the venture capital space. It's a very, very tough business to break into, and even tougher business to be good at. And that's why I think a lot of athletes get drawn to it, because it's like, well, I made the top 0.00001% of my sport. I will be able to transition and be in the top 0.0000 of venture capital. Not the case. Let's go, baby. It's another episode of the Athletes and Assets podcast. I'm your host, Noah Lack, and I bring on athletes from every major sports league to chat about a business topic and what they're building off the court, the field, the arena. Today, I'm on my solo ones and decided to break down 3 active athletes who are building in venture capital, and I'm going to evaluate their sort of fund structure, what they're invested in, and sort of like give my remarks along the way. I did the same thing recently. If you haven't done so, please like, subscribe, do all that stuff that the YouTubers say. The last episode, I did 3 active athletes who are building tech companies, other side of the table. And these athletes are active, building tech companies, commented. I gave reasons why they would work, why they wouldn't work. And I want to do a similar thing here, except on the other side, the tech investing side, the venture capital side, okay? A little bit about my background. I've been in VC and tech for a couple years, and I've worked with hundreds of athletes understanding what they're doing or what they want to do outside of their sport, whether they're thinking about it or they're actually doing it, whether they're entrepreneurs or they want to work in some large corporation. So on the tech side of things, I've seen enough to, I guess, identify pattern recognition, and understand the pockets, where to look, how to build, who to build around you. I'm not an agent or anything. I've just seen enough to where I feel I can comment on it. And if you don't like my 2 cents here, there is the exit button on the top of your web browser. And if you're still watching, let's get it. All right. 3 athletes I'm going to break down. Mario Götze, Thaddeus Young, and Alejandro Bedoya. We got 2 soccer players, 1 NBA player. I noticed, first of all, that, and we're doing market maps. If you haven't seen our market maps, join the Athletes and Assets community. We'll link it, and you'll see the maps, the comprehensive coverage we're putting together of all the leagues. And we're showing you the exact categories that active athletes are investing or building in. Obviously, there's so many retired athletes doing great things. These market maps are active, currently active athletes. This today is active athletes. So these 3 guys are still playing, and they have these venture funds. If you don't know what venture capital is, quite simply is you put together funds, money, and you deploy that money into early companies, very young companies, in exchange for equity. When those companies become the next Google or Yahoo, if they go public or become acquired, that money that you put into them allowed you to get shares of equity. You have shares of equity in that company. And if it works, if you do it right, you cash out at an infinite amount that you put in. And so that's why a lot of people love venture capitalists. It's a sexy industry, a very sexy industry, so to speak. And a lot of athletes are starting to really dabble seriously in the venture capital space. It's a very, very tough business to break into, and even tougher business to be good at. It is a business of outliers. It's the business of the top 0.000000001%. And that's why I think a lot of athletes get drawn to it, because it's like, well, I made the top 0.00001% of my sport. Then I also will be able to transition. I will be able to transition and be in the top 0.00000 of venture capital. Not the case. They don't give a damn how many points you scored, man. It's a different beast. And it's fun to see, but I still applaud all the athletes hopping into it and trying to pursue it. So it's great to see these athletes giving it a go. And giving it a go, I mean, like, they're fully committed. They have full-on teams dedicated to investing in the next breakout companies, which is exciting. So let's get into it. Number 1, first of all, before I even say his name, if you don't know who Mario Götze is, and even if you're not a soccer fan, please do some research. The gentleman was a 2014 FIFA World Cup winner for Germany. One of these German wonder kids, incredible soccer player, still playing in Germany. Mario is like, yo, I'm going to be a VC, bro, while I'm still playing. Okay, Mario, what you got? Companion M. Companion M is a privately held investment vehicle for Mario Götze and holds his brand rights. It's a cross-asset management firm with access to various opportunities in venture capital and private equity. I'm not going to comment on the private equity part because venture capital is more interesting to me. We're building a resilient portfolio of up to X amount of emerging and tier one managers in venture capital in private equity. And the goal is also to create a dynamic startup portfolio in pre-seed, seed stage frontier technology companies with a focus in B2B SaaS, deep health, climate tech, Web3 in Europe and the USA. In a nutshell, I just broke down what they're doing. Let's get a little more granular. So first of all, the first thing that they're doing, which a lot of firms are doing and a lot of athletes do, is not invest directly in the companies. They invest in like venture firms that are like better at investing in the companies. So you have the companies and then you have the venture firms that, and whether big or small, that have sort of direct interface with the companies. And so when these venture firms are raising capital, they're like, all right, like let me get some cool LPs so we can flex on it and get more companies to accept our money. And Companion M has taken one approach they've taken is like, let's deploy capital into the smaller tech companies. I mean, smaller funds, the other funds. And I see this a lot. Basically, when you're investing in another venture fund, like the brand name is everything. You don't know whether the startup is going to be a hit or not. And so there's like a lot more conviction there. But when you're investing in a venture fund, usually these athletes leverage their athletic prowess, history, and brand value and try to source the most reputable VC funds to put their own venture money in. So like on this, if I can map this out, it's like Mario Götze's fund. Below it is general VC funds or micro fund, like other VC funds. Below that is the startups that they invest in. So one approach Mario's taking is he's saying, hey, let me give money into the VC firms. And those VC firms will give money into the startups. When the startups become a success, those VC firms cash out. So does Mario Götze because him and his firm are limited partners. I'm doing all this weird hand shit, but I need you to understand this fast because that's how we move. Also, they're looking to invest in pre-seed C stage. It's tough. That's tough. That's the earliest life cycle of a company. Like that's early. Like, you know, if you were to give athletes and assets a stage, we'd be like we're like pre-seed. It's really early. I know I know we're established and got like cool production and we do all this stuff, but we're really fucking early. And so how is he going to figure out what to invest in? Obviously, he has a team around him. Let's talk about the categories. B2B SaaS, deep health tech, climate tech, Web3 in Europe. You know what that tells me? I'm not going to go down each category. That tells me that firm is, they're looking to invest in shit that's just good. Shit generalist fun, which I like myself. Some firms are like, we strictly want to invest in Web3. We strictly want to invest in healthcare. And I got like, if that's their industry domain, that's where they plan, fantastic. This screams to me, let's just, you leverage our network to help us find the best deals in various categories, which is what most athlete VC funds would probably do at this point in history. So it makes sense. The geography. This is why I'm bullish on this, Mr. Götze. Most athlete VC firms are still like based in the US. This European thing is very forward thinking. And, a lot of global venture firms are bullish on some of the technical talent in Europe versus like still focusing on like Silicon Valley where I am and New York. So Mario Götze, he is so legendary in Germany. I can only imagine the pool and leverage he has to be able to get deals in Europe. I mean, that is a good value. That's probably the thing that stood out to me the most. And he knows his backyard. His partners know his backyard. And so I like the Europe focus. And don't take this for granted because most companies on the planet do not get venture funding. And so when you talk about such a small population of companies, you know, how many European startups get funded compared to all the companies in the world? Like probably not a lot. Companion M has a nice value add that I love seeing in VC firms. So shout out to Mario and team. They have sort of boutique marketing and media that they can offer to individual opportunities. So I see a scenario here, and I can't confirm if they do this, but a value add of Companion M, you know, everyone's had the idea before, as harsh a reality it is. It's really hard to like think of something that feels like no one's ever thought about it before. So a lot of startups, their differentiators are distribution and storytelling. I think if venture firms can help with that on the media side while they focus on the product, if that is like a value add, then that is beautiful. Good shit there, if that's the case. Also, that's the value add there. So that's Mario Götze. Mario Götze Companion M. Seems, you know, the little information I could gather seems like they're headed in an interesting direction. The co-investing, it's typical. European focus, probably a smart move. They're also focused in the U.S. That's where I think the playing field gets a little level, because a lot of athletes are competing probably for the same deals in the U.S. I don't know how it is in Europe. He might have more of an advantage there. Mario Götze Companion. Moving on to Thaddeus Young. Thaddeus Young. Okay. First of all, I just want to say, Thaddeus, you don't come on the pod, I bring you on the pod. This is what I do. All right. So I know you don't do many podcasts except you got on Petcash's podcast. I don't know how you got, like, Petcash is the man, so I understand. I also would like you to come on the podcast as well, Thaddeus. You don't have to just do one podcast. We would appreciate if you grace the podcast with your Reform Ventures knowledge. But if you want to do that, I got my notes. Okay, Reform Ventures. First of all, Thaddeus Young was on the Toronto Raptors and got traded to Phoenix, so a little big shift in the life there. So congratulations to the Suns, because they got Thaddeus, who was a great veteran presence. But Thaddeus runs a full-fledged investment vehicle, Reform Ventures, that evaluates and provides value-added investment in early growth and late-stage companies that have strong value propositions, barriers to entry, a sound business plan and strategy, a strong management and advisory team with industry expertise, and the potential to scale and create a path to exit. Reform Ventures will consider investment in opportunities with the following industry focus: digital media, financial technology, proper CRE, that's like real estate tech, healthcare hardware, software solutions, consumer products, and services. They also have a real estate sort of vehicle. So this is interesting, Thaddeus, because real estate investing in venture capital, unless you're investing in like property tech, and those overlap for sure. I mean, that is the definition of overlap. Purely real estate investing in VC, interesting. I don't know how you focus on one or the other and how you delegate your time. They have a full-fledged team, which is, you know, fully suited out. Here's what I want to do with Thaddeus's company. I'm going to go through some of their portfolio companies. Airbnb, holy shit. DraftKings, Lyft, Lime. Airbnb, DraftKings, Lyft, Lime. I don't know what round it's not clear to me how early or late Reform got into those companies. Noble as well. Tonal. Let's stick with those four. Let's talk about those four. Airbnb, DraftKings, Lyft, Lime. Without having insider information, because I haven't been told anything. A growth round, maybe? How do you get into these companies? This is ridiculous, that is. These are unicorns. These are like billions of billions. Airbnb is a multi-billion-dollar company. This is like stuff. This is MBA money that you're making off of investing in a company like this. Once again, I don't know how early he's been in these. So anyways, reputable. Heliogen. Decarbonizing industry was a solo thought. It's a public company. Let's go. Let's keep going. Bloom Energy. It's a public company. What the so there's some, I don't know if, I don't know how they're getting into this sort of stuff. Actually, I know how they're getting into some of this stuff. They're probably working with Next Play Capital, which is now Next Legacy Ventures. Legendary, led by my guy Ryan Neese, legendary athlete turned VC, was in the NFL and now runs a giant. He's someone I could do it. Like, that's another athlete we could do a whole pod on. For the sake of this one, I'll keep it brief. But Next Legacy has a ton of, they co-invest in many different funds, and they also have a lot of athlete LPs. And so I think there's some connection there, which leads me back to the advantage of co-investing. So Thaddeus may have co-invested with them on some stuff and found allocation in these deals. Also, First Round Capital is one of their partners. So is one of Reform's partners. So that could also be their entryway into it. So yeah, the portfolio is looking kind of nice. The portfolio is looking kind of filthy. I'm not going to lie. That is a nice collection of companies, and I didn't mention that many. Let's talk about industry focus. I like how they're focused on property tech, real estate tech. I do think there are ways in construction and real estate that could use software to help improve different processes, like construction or construction management. I've seen a bunch of different construction management softwares being built. Also, software to help landlords and tenants manage different things, back office things, all in one software. I think that software has traditionally been very old, out of date, or there's been stuff that hasn't been codified with software. I'm saying too many fucking fancy words. There's a lot of stuff that technology hasn't leveraged yet that we could easily build with software. So I like that angle, Mr. Young. I like that angle. I want to focus on that one. Digital media, financial tech, healthcare, hardware, all that stuff is that's great. I think for this specifically, since Reform has the real estate branch, I want to point out that Thaddeus also lives in the Dallas area, and I've noticed a lot of athletes in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex really have a nice grasp of real estate because Texas, we're constantly building. So they're constantly exposed to new real estate projects that have a solid chance of working because the state keeps on growing. So I see this interesting pattern where athletes who are in the DFW Metroplex have a unique real estate. I've noticed athletes in the DFW Metroplex have a unique real estate sense because there's stuff constantly being built and constructed, and they know the market that's going to go live there. So for example, in Houston, there is constant real estate being built on the outskirts of the city. And we know that we know that a lot of those people who live in those neighborhoods are in healthcare because Houston is one of the best places in the world to be sick. Our medical center looks like a frickin' downtown. And so you can assume when you're building real estate in the outskirts, a lot of those people are going to be nurses and doctors or healthcare workers. So these kind of things can help better gauge a real estate investment, the prospects, what types of products or companies, retail shops should be built around that area. And I think Texas does a really good job of kind of preparing you for that. So that's why I think for Thaddeus kind of makes sense. Good shit, Thaddeus. Reform Ventures. I've seen Thaddeus at tech events. He's really forward thinking and is setting a blueprint for a lot of athletes. So I think I think I've covered that as thoroughly as I can. This one is another monster. Alejandro Bedoya, American soccer legend, is currently with the Philadelphia Union. Soccer vet. He's still around, man. He's still around playing. But Alejandro, now this is a different beast, man. So Alejandro is the co-chairman of 76 Capital. Let me tell you a little bit about 76 Capital. I'll give you the bird's eye view and we'll dive specifically into the venture thing. 76 Capital is a venture capital company that invests in innovative sports, media, and entertainment companies. 76 Capital has a sports advisory business. Its Athlete Venture Group, the sports leadership show, and a strategic partnership with Rubicon Talent. So They have the podcast. They feature industry's top entrepreneurs, athletes, thought leaders. The host is Wayne Kimmel. There's a bunch of different programs here. We're just going to talk about venture capital. All these are awesome, but we're going to talk about venture capital. So, 76 sold 4 portfolio companies, Vizin. Apologies if I say that wrong. I'm botching the names. The sports betting media network sold to DraftKings. Victory, a next generation sports book, sold to Fubo TV. Team Whistle. I think you've heard of Whistle. You've seen Whistle, the watermark on the different media stuff. A sports and entertainment media company sold to 11 Sports, and in 2022 sold to DAZN. And C360, maker of pylon cams and an immersive video company that sold to COSM. These guys are a monster. And I've talked about different industries. They're like sports. This is a very sports-focused VC firm, which I was skeptical before diving into their portfolio because sports tech's been hard. It's hard for me to evaluate what's really the big innovation in sports tech. Right now, the biggest thing that sticks out to me is this epidemic in America, which is sports gambling, which is like a whole nother conversation. But you'll get the gist here, right? Kicks, best way to buy used sneakers. Maestro, fan engagement video streaming. I'm naming portfolio companies. Lucra, adding real money gaming to your platform. Distributed gym software, Forte Forever Fit, distributed gym software. Geo Snapshot, the digital media hub for sports. This is a monster firm. I mean, they've got some really legitimate partners, advisors, and this is different from the first two. This isn't necessarily Alejandro's baby. He's a part of the fund and contributes probably from a capital, networking, and access distribution perspective. Alejandro is an investor and partner in Paddle House, the first and only paddle club in New York City. He's an advisory board member for Athlliance. He's an investor and partner in ICNCLST. So doing a lot. He's doing a lot. This is also a benefit for athletes to not necessarily just do the show themselves and build a team around them, but also merge or connect with an established team, gives them the autonomy to make investments and do their thing on and off the field. This is a monster, man. This is a really high-level firm, and I can't really pick them apart. They know what they're doing. So, yeah. That's it. I don't have too much. The only thing I was going to comment on is the whole sports tech vertical. Remember I talked about the generalist versus the specific thing? Okay. When I saw Mario Götze's fund, I was like, they are investing in anything. Not necessarily 76. They're like, we are the masters and we are the voice and partners for the best sports tech and media stuff. Okay, maybe I should talk. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you should hook your boy up. They know they have their focus. Okay, they didn't say we're going to invest in a bunch of healthcare or we're going to invest specifically in real estate tech stuff. They're like, no, we're the sports guys. We know what we know. 3 active athletes in venture capital. Let me know what you think, man. Was my analysis fair? What do you like to see more of? Let us know. Please like and subscribe to the pod. Join the community. Stay updated with what we're providing. We have a very comedic, informative style. I don't take myself too seriously, but I also want to educate you on what's going on, not only with athletes, but also in the business world. We'll do news, we'll do content, but most importantly, we want to do what you want. So let us know what you want. Your feedback is essential. Oh, before I close it out, if you want to partner or sponsor the podcast, let us know. We have an elite community of athletes, investors, entrepreneurs. Let us know if you want to partner with A&A. Come on now. This was another episode of the Athletes and Assets podcast. I'm your host, Noah Lack. Hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you for the next one.